Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. So hey, in today's video, I'm going to talk and share with you and explain to you exactly how I took a $7,000 investment and turned it into $170,000. So if you're ready to find out exactly how I went about doing that and how I made that much money, find that thumbs up button beneath this video somewhere. Smash that thumbs up button. It just shows your support for me here on YouTube, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into today's video. All right, you guys. So like I said, I was going to explain and show you guys how I took a small investment of $7,000 and turned that $7,000 into $170,000. So here you go. This is how I did it. So I was working, just a very average warehouse job, working at night and just saving a little of my money each and every pay period. And after about, maybe a year and a half of doing so, I had saved up roughly a little over like $7,000, maybe like $10,000. And I knew that I wanted to do something with that money. I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do with that money, but I knew that there had to be some type of option available to me where I could take that money that I had and make more money with it, some type of smart financial decision. And the opportunity came up and was presented to me where I could purchase, a property that I could, own a piece of real estate, and that my down payment was going to just only be $7,000. So in January, February, March, so April 1st, 2016, I purchased and put down $7,000 on my very first rental property. And it's just a small house, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, right around like 820 square feet here in Southern California. And that's what the $7,000 that I'm talking about in the title of this video, how I took the $7,000 and turned it into $170,000. So my down payment was $7,000. Now, if you're curious what the purchase price of the property was, the purchase price was $198,000. But I only had to put $7,000 down as my down payment because the type of particular loan that I got, the loan that I got when I purchased that property was an FHA loan, which is, if you guys are not too familiar with that, which is a government loan where you don't need to have a high credit score or you don't need to have a high income. And you basically are like, hey, I don't got a high credit score, I don't make a lot of money, but I want to purchase this property. Income wise, I qualify for it, but they allow you to put down a much smaller down payment than like your traditional 20% down or 10% down or even 5% down. So it made it very affordable, very easy for me to be able to get into this property and now control an asset that was, significantly worth more in value than the amount of money that I was putting down. I was putting down $7,000 to control a $200,000 asset. And I knew, I couldn't tell you how fast, that rental property would go up in value, but I knew over time that it would. Now, and I'm very glad that I ended up making the decision to go ahead and purchase this property. So anyways, I went ahead, put the $7,000 down, and of course there's other fees that are associated with it, that I had to pay, but at the end of the day, my down payment was $7,000 to purchase the property. And I bought the property in 2016 as my primary residence. I moved into the property. I lived in the property for 1 year. After living in the property for 1 year, I moved out of the property and I converted that property into a rental property. And I basically just was like, okay, I don't want to live in the property anymore. I never initially bought the property for me to live in. It was to be an investment property. But as part of, one of the restrictions or one of the rules, in other words, of the FHA loan is that if it's going to be your primary residence and that it's an FHA loan, that you must live in that property for 1 year before you can convert it and, make that property a rental property. So after living in that property for 1 year as my primary residence, I moved out and I placed a tenant in the property and I began renting out that property. Now, like I said, I've had the property since April 1st, 2016. So here we are now in 2021. We're almost going to 2022. We're in October now of 2021. And the price of that property has appreciated from, like I said, when I bought it in 2016, it was $198,000. I put the $7,000 down to purchase the property. And currently right now, the value of that property is sitting at $344,000 for that very same rental property that I purchased. that same small 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom property, and if you take the value that that property is worth, $344,000, and you take the amount that I still owe on the loan, which is $171,000, like that's how much I still owe on the property. You subtract that $171,000 from the $340,000, where you're going to come up with $173,000, and that is the value, that is the money, so to speak, that I have made on my investment, because I put in $7,000 as my down payment, and then from that $7,000, it allowed me to control this property, this 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom home. I placed someone in there, a tenant, that was able to pay the payment for me. And in the beginning, just to make it clear, just in case if you guys were wondering, I didn't make any rental income for like maybe the first year, maybe year and a half. Like I wasn't making any profit on a month-to-month basis as I was renting out the property. But as I held on to the property more, like maybe like year 3, that's when I started to actually like make positive income from a month-to-month standpoint. But even then, that's not where like the bigger money or the bigger value comes from, or the bigger return. It's not going to come from the rental income. The bigger value and the bigger return on the investment came from the large like growth in value from the $198,000 purchase price of the property to the property now being worth $344,000. So out of that, the home's worth $344,000. You subtract the amount that I owe on the property, $171,000. You're going to end up with $173,000, and that right there is how I turned a $7,000 investment into $173,000, because essentially I've made the difference between $7,000 and the $173,000, because that's all that I gave up. I mean, yeah, if you really want to be like nitpicky about it, you could say, well, yeah, but you lived there for a year. But I mean, like, to be honest, my payment was only like $1,200 a month. So you could go ahead and do the math, subtract, $1,200 a month for the, for 1 year. I mean, it's really not going to eat away at the total of that $173,000. Like, there's no comparison between $7,000 and $173,000. So, like I said, I was going to share with you guys how I turned a $7,000 investment into $173,000, because in case if you guys are wondering, I have not sold the property. I still currently own it to this very day, and I still rent it out. And now that property cash flows significantly more than it did in the very beginning. Now, and I love that, like that's just a bonus to me. But if I decided to sell that property today, I mean, that would be essentially the profit. It would be the difference between, from what I put down is $7,000, and then that, so what I owe is 171, and what it's valued at is 344. And if you subtract that 171 from the 344, you're going to come away with 173. So I would essentially have $173,000, and then of course there's like realtor fees and things like that, and all this other kind of costs associated with selling the property. So I wouldn't come away with all of that, but essentially I created that much value from a $7,000 investment. And that's what I wanted to show you guys, how it's possible, how you could take a very small amount of money, a very reasonable amount of money. And I didn't have a high income job when I came up with that $7,000 investment. I just was working a very regular, very average warehouse job. And I just made it a point to set aside some of my paycheck each and every time I got paid. And then when I reached that $7,000, I was like, I want to make a smart financial decision with the $7,000 that's going to help me build my net worth. And I decided to take that $7,000 and purchase a rental property. So thank you guys so much for watching. Now you guys know how I took $7,000 and turned that $7,000 into $170,000. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already, and thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you guys in the next